Hey everybody, Cap here, Welsh Creative. Today we're going to be doing a little bit of a video outside the shop today. We're going to be doing some woodworking. We're going to do a how-to video on how to build a screen drying unit combined with a sort of a tabletop to build my screen printing press on. So Cap, kick off that intro. Alright, so this is kind of the start of my little plan here. It'll evolve as the project goes, but we're going to start off with the panels here, and then we'll write down the measurements for you guys on the frames. I have a previous drawing that's a little rougher that's got all the measurements for these frames, but we'll talk about that a little bit. So this is the basic idea. I'm basically just building a big box that's the width a little bit on top of the width of my frame, my screens, my screen printing screens. And this box is going to be fully enclosed as the emulsion cures. It needs to be in a dark area, so this will have a door on this. It'll swing one way or the other, and then my screens will slide in on rails inside this box and will cure overnight as the emulsion dries, and then I can burn the screens the following day. On top here is where my screen printing press will go and mount. And as you saw in my shop tour video, there is a couple of what they call Lazy Susans that will be mounted onto here and on top of each other. So those round wooden discs will rotate, okay? Also, along the sides of this, I'm going to mount some sort of jig to mount my squeegees on. And then I'm going to build a little pocket for my my putty knives for my ink. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to get started on cutting some frames. I need two 36 by 30s, two 30 by 24s, and two 36 by 24s, which will build essentially the exterior of the cabinet. So let's get started. Alright, so our first cut is going to be a 36-inch cut from throughout the entire length of the board. That's my widest panel. So to make it easy, I'm going to take one long pass along the full length of the board. So I know that my widest or longest width is 36 inches. And so to make the job easier to deal with as far as being by myself and handling a larger panel like this, I'm going to make one long pass with my circular saw. As far as the material list, I'll post at the end of the video my blueprint with material list. It's essentially three pieces of 4x8. I'm using MDF because it's going to be inside the shop. It's not going to be outside. And I have some 2x4s over here. I don't know if you can see that or not. I have five 2x4s using Douglas fir. Screws, tools I need, or I'm going to be using today, is going to be a circular saw, portable circular saw, and then I have my chop saw to make some nice even cuts. So I'm going to go ahead and take this pass off here, and we'll continue. All right, so I've got my 36-inch width that I'm going to have, which is actually the height of the cabinet. So now I'm going to cut the 30-inch pieces for the sides. I've marked out the lines already at 30 inches. So let's get this cut. All right, so the next piece we're going to be working on is going to be the ends, which on one side is going to be a door, and the other side will be just the end of the box. This board that I'm using right now is just enough to do one of the ends, so I'm going to go ahead and cut that, and then we'll get the other cuts lined up. All right, so we got 3 more cuts. We're on to sheet number 2. I only need one more piece at 36 wide or long, or however you want to look at it, and the other 2 pieces are going to be 30 inches. What I'm going to do to make it easier for working with a larger piece of wood is I'm going to take one long pass again on the second piece at 36, so that when I get to the 2 30-inch pieces, I can just cut them in and out, and we'll be good to go. All right, so we've got our 2 ends and sides done. So now I'm going to work on the top and the bottom. The bottom is a 30-inch wide by 24-inch deep, or however you want to proportion what angle you're looking at. I'm going to do one long pass here at 30 inches, and then I'm going to cut two 24-inch pieces to give us all 6 sides. Let's get it cut. All right, so I don't know if you can see this or not, but we've got all 6 sides built now. We've got the top, the bottom, the ends, or the door and the end, and we also have the bottom, excuse me, the sides of them. And so I know some of you are asking, Cab, but you bought 3 pieces of wood. Yes, I did, and I did that on purpose. People make mistakes, including myself, and so I always want to make sure I've got extra piece of wood just in case. And the other reason why I did that is I'm working outside and I don't really have a workbench out here, so with a couple of sawhorses and this extra piece of wood, I can have a place to work and build my frames. So very good. Well, I'm gonna take a water break and let's go working on those frames. All right, guys, back. All right, so the next piece we're gonna work on here is the frames. There's what we're gonna do. This is gonna be the sides of the unit. So that's the things that go long ways. It's the 36 high by 30 inches deep, wide, long, however you want to look at it. What we're going to do is we're going to build, using the 2x4 as a frame, all the way around the exterior of both panels. And we're only going to put 2x4s on these panels, and it'll make sense as we're essentially building the structure. That way the other pieces have something to drill into, and that'll make sense as we continue with the project. But let me get some measurements measured out and we'll get those cut. All right, so I got one of the cuts done on the frame, which is again the sides of the unit. 2 36 inches pieces for each, and then a 22.75 or 22 3/4 is going to be the measurement of the inside frame. I'm going to go ahead and cut the other 4 pieces for the other portion of the side of the unit, and we'll start attaching the frames to the MDF. All right. So we got all the pieces cut for these portion of the unit. Again, this is the sides of the cabinet we're building. Just a quick tip: the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to actually hot glue these pieces to the panel, just to keep it at least remotely there, so I can, stuck to the piece of wood, so I can flip it over and put my screws in there. Just a tip. I'm working by myself, so it's a little easier. Just to get them tacked on there quickly. Put some hot glue. I use Gorilla hot glue sticks here, and then I'll clamp the frames onto the unit here, and then give it about 2 or 3 minutes. Flip it over, and then secure the frames onto the panel. All right, let's get gluing. So we're ready to attach these frames to the panel. So I'm going to go around the edges here, and I'm going to drill a pilot hole, and I'm going to countersink. I'm going to create a countersink with this drill here, so that the screw is flush with the board. Part of the reason why I like to do a pilot hole is that way it doesn't tear up the MDF and doesn't split the wood as far as the studs go. So I'm going to go around both panels that I've just made the frames for, and get these fully attached, and then we'll move on to the next step. All right, so this is the bottom piece. The only difference that I'm going to do as far as this piece versus the sides is I'm going to put the frames upright so that I can drill into the side pieces at the bottom. I'll have more surface area for this piece here to drill into down here at the bottom. So I'm going to go with the same technique. I'm going to tack glue with some hot glue on the bottom, let that dry for a few minutes, and then I'll flip it over, pilot hole, countersink, and then drill the screws into it. All right, let's do this. Okay, so this is again, the underside of the base of the cabinet. What I've gone ahead and done is, as I saw earlier, I went ahead and drilled the base to the frame, which we talked about why I did that as far as making it up and down instead of this way. I also made these feet. I just cut a 45 just to keep the base of the cabinet off of the floor in the shop. So I'm going to go ahead and attach these. I'm going to attach a little bit of glue, get that nice and tight on there, and then I'll go ahead and drill some pilot holes and get these guys attached to the bottom of the base. Moving on. Alright guys, here we are. So I got this side all attached at the bottom. You can see where I've drilled from the base into the side panel here. Got, I don't know, 4 or 5 screws, 6 screws in there. I'm going to go ahead and do the other side here. And then we're going to go ahead and attach the back end piece first. And then we'll go from there. Starting to look like a cabinet, guys. Oopsie. Alright, so we got the back put on. What my plan is here at the bottom, I'm going to put a fan that faces up, and I'll probably drill a hole either underneath it probably and run a cord for the power, but to blow air with a fan, and it dries the screens a little faster. That's my plan there. Looking pretty good. Pretty happy with it. Started to look like a box of some kind. I did have to make a couple adjustments, or I decided to make a couple adjustments to the original plan as far as dimensions, so I made those adjustments on my blueprint, and I'll provide those dimensions a little later, but it's looking pretty good. That's why we have extra wood, just in case we want to make some additional adjustments, or if you want to, this wasn't quite as wide as I'd like. I needed about 4 or 5 more inches to do what I wanted to do with it. So it looks good. I'm going to wait and put on the top. The reason why is I'm going to put strips along the bottom, along the edges here to slide my screens on, up all the way through, all the way from the top to the bottom. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to work on the door, at least get the pieces cut. Looks like it might rain, so I'm kind of concerned about that. So I'm going to start seeing if I can get the pieces cut at least for the top and the bottom, or top and the front door, and then maybe move closer to the garage. I'm also going to put some 2x4s here in the center where my first Lazy Susan will go, and then I'll put the top on it. That way I have a surface, and then I can drill into those 2x4s through the MDF that's on top. So, looking pretty good. Pretty happy with it. Moving on. Alright, so I have moved some stuff into the shop. It looked kind of ugly outside. It wasn't sure if it was going to rain, so moved the shop inside. So this is where we're at. Got the back on, like I said before. I'm not going to put the top or the front on until we get the guide rails in for the screens. So what I went with is a piece of 1.25 by inch stock that I had here at the house. This is what I use to stretch my screens or create my canvases. So I have 2 rails up at the top that go all the way to the back, and then so I have the 2 frames, or the 4 frames on each corner, and then I have a piece of 28-inch or 29-inch stock here that goes from the front to the back. Now the nice thing about this, the way I've designed it, is when I go to a larger press that takes larger screens, I can get rid of these rails, put smaller rails in, or come up with something different, so I can still use the same box, the same drying box, and then that way I can continue using the same box and have to build something new or buy something new. So kind of versatile, but my screens are 20 by 24, so this allows me to use the smaller screens for now, and then if I upgrade my press or whatever and get bigger screens, or that accommodate bigger screens, then I can upgrade my dimensions as far as my rails. So we're going to go from the very bottom here all the way to the top with these longitudinals that go from the front to the back, and the screen goes in here. So I'm going to go up until I get to the top, and we'll check back when I'm done. Peace. All right, so we're going to close out this evening with what you're looking at. So I've got all of my guides in, and as you can see, looks pretty good. I'm pretty happy with it. If you look here, I can put 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12 screens at one time. Again, this is for 20 by 24 inch screens, and as I upgrade my press in the coming years, I can always change my guides and the widths, also the lengths, or excuse me, the thickness. Keep in mind, if you are building something like this, or if you're using my design or my measurements, make sure that you pay attention to the thickness of each screen. Just a quick trick. What I did was I took a piece of this and put it upright to get my widths correct, so you can't mess up on measuring, you know, how far in between you put them. So I just took a piece of this same stuff and I put it here, most of the length, and then attached them and let them dry, pulled them out, and there we go. So pretty happy with what it looks like so far, and we'll continue this this project tomorrow. Tomorrow we're going to work on the top. I'm going to put a full sheet. I've already got them cut over there, but before I do that, I'm going to establish some sort of brace in between here so that I can attach my Lazy Susan right to the middle of that. So we'll see how that goes. All right, folks, done for the evening. Signing off. We'll see you in the morning. All right, good morning, everybody. It's a beautiful day, a little windy, but our shop's open. All right, so today we're going to be building the well, we're going to start by building the braces that go along the top of the storage / tabletop for the press that we're going to build. But so what I came up with is a brace that goes left to right. There's going to be 2 of them. The width of my bracket or Lazy Susan is 6 inches. That's it's a square. So I'm going to need 2 2x4s running along on the center of the entire box. So what I did, based on my frame for my screen holders or guides or shelves or whatever you want to call them, the width here is not wide enough for the full length, the full width of the board or thickness of the board. So what I did is I took a router and routed a section of that out on both sides, and that seemed to work pretty good. So I just took a router, routed out the thickness of what I needed to clear this here, and then I took a file and cleaned it up a little bit. So the width of this and the depth of what I needed to come down to make it flush. So it worked out well. So I'm going to go ahead and cut out one more, and then we'll get this attached. All right, so I got the 2 pieces notched out, as you can see there. And this measures about 7 inches, which will be fine because my bracket or my Lazy Susan's 6. So what I did is I marked the center between the actual frame, which is 30 inches. Marked 15 on each side, and then that's going to be the center of my boards. That way I know that these two boards are in the center of the two frames. I'm probably just going to hot glue with some all-purpose wood glue to this frame here, because the top's going to go on it and drill into it, and the top's going to be drilled into the outside frame. I'm just worried about this stuff splitting and not holding this. The glue I use is a high tack wood glue that'll be fine for what we're doing. So I'm going to get that tack down. Then I'm going to put the top on it and then draw underneath it the lines of where these frames are, and then I'm going to flip it and I'll know where those frames are respective to what's going to be on top, so I know where to put my Lazy Susan. So let's get working on that. Alright, so I've got the top on and got my lines drawn where the frames sit below it. Okay, so the next step I'm going to do now is I'm going to go and attach the top to the cabinet. I'm going to probably again tack it with some hot glue around the outside, so that way when I'm drilling and countersinking and putting screws in, it doesn't move. All right, let's get her attached. All right, so we got the top all put on nice and neat. Everything looks good there. The next treatment we're going to work on is the front door. So I have it raised off of the base to line up with the top, based on the thicknesses of wood that I have from the bottom of the ledge here. So I have a 2x4 face down, which represents the thickness of the legs, and then I have a piece of the MDF, which represents the bottom of the base. So what I'm going to do is I have some old door hinges, household hinges. You can get it from Home Depot or Lowe's. These are a value pack. They're 3.5 inch, 5/8 inch holes. This is comes with screws, which is nice. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to build a frame out of the stock of that same stuff that I used in the inside for the screen frame rails. And I'm going to build basically a frame all the way around the front door, so that I have something to screw into on with this hinge. I'll probably put 2 or 3 on here, but so I'm going to work on that. I'm going to build a frame just to go around the edges. So see how that works out. So what I'm going to do before I move on here, I'm going to show you what I'm going to do. So I'm going to build a frame from all the way around the edges here, and I'm probably just going to I'm going to start with tacking it with the hot glue again, and I'll probably put 2 or 3 screws into the frame. We'll see how that goes. I may not. I think it might be sufficient just to clamp down some frames. I don't want to go too far into the wood, and a small screw probably won't hold it anyway. All right, let's press forward. We're looking pretty good so far. I think that the frame on that front door will make it pop a little bit too, which will make it look kind of nice. All right, pressing on. All right, so I got the hinges on. I went ahead and went with 2. I felt with 3 was overkill, and it worked out well. It worked real nice. Couldn't find the black screws that the hinges came with. Again, I had these hinges already in one of my junk drawers, so I didn't have to buy those. But those are standard household door hinges. So yeah, it worked out well. On the inside, I wanted to show you. I had this idea from a previous YouTuber, and it worked well for him, and so I wanted to try it out. But what I did is I'm using Velcro, to keep the door closed instead of, installing a latch. And it keeps it nice and sealed. It's a 36-inch piece of Velcro. It's probably 2 inches wide. I used the fuzzy side on the cabinet itself and used hot glue and staples to keep it adhered to the cabinet portion. And I used 3 little strips on the door portion. I didn't want to go the full length of the door. I didn't want it to be too sticky. I just wanted to keep it closed. And just by shutting like that, and a little bit easier to open. I may or may not put a handle on it. Can't decide. But it turned out real well. Don't know what I'm going to paint it, what color I'm going to paint it yet, if I'm going to paint it, but that's what the inside turned out to look like. Got it all cleaned up. There's some glue drippings I want to clean up, of course, but the true test is tonight. I'm going to put a halogen light in there and close the door and see if any light escapes. The idea here is to keep the light completely out of the box. Therefore, if light is coming out of the box from the inside, then it'll tell me the light's getting in. But there's not a whole lot of light in the garage, except for I do have fluorescents throughout the garage. Most of them are LED though, so that won't matter much. When you put a coated screen in there, before you burn an image into it, it has to cure completely, and it can't be exposed to any light at all. So once you burn the image, you can dry it out in the sun. It's not a big deal, but you want to keep them in a cool, dark space. All right. Well, that wraps up the basic build of the box. I haven't decided if I'm going to attach anything to the sides of the box yet, only because if there's a press on it and the stations are circling, those sections might be in the way of getting to them anyway, to get your squeegees and your ink knives or spatulas or putty knives, whatever you want to call them. So I'm not sure. I don't think I'm going to put anything on there. But yeah, worked out really well. Pretty happy with it. All right, guys, let's wrap us up.
All right, friends, welcome back. Just wanted to wrap this video up and kind of talk about some of the different ways that you can take this design, this idea, this guide, and make it free for yourself. And you can take what I put on the videos and use it to your advantage, or you can do whatever you want with it. But I wanted to put something out there for you all to let you know what I'm working on, and maybe it's something you can use on your own. I also wanted to put up together a blueprint, or show a blueprint on screen and kind of go over the different options you have when building this. It was a fun build. I look forward to getting it to use. So let's get started. Let me pull up the blueprint that we came up with. This here is the final dimensions and blueprint items that we built, and I came up with as far as dimensions. And I want to start with the actual 3-dimensional view here that you see. These are the final dimensions that we came up with. 30 inches deep, which is what we originally decided would work okay. And then the height was 36, which is what we originally wanted it to be. And then the width of 30 inches is what really changed things a little bit for me. I thought the 28-inch original dimensions was a little short, so I did increase that, which was okay. We always, when we're building a project from scratch and coming up with our own design, there's nothing wrong with buying more material. Worked out well. So with that change from my original cuts, that changed the back, the top, and the door. So the back, the top, and the door. And those dimensions did change with the increase of the width of the cabinet. As you see illustrated here, these are the timbers that go front to back, which hold my screens. Those came out really well. The frame and the timbers I used came out really well. The door here, as you see here at the bottom right, shows the frames here, which allow for drilling my hinges into. I did use MDF, and so the front installation of these timbers wrapping the box, creating that frame allowed me to have something to drill those hinges into. So, and also made it look nice, which is cool. I wanted to take note also too of the feet here that we created to keep the box off the ground. Again, those were 2x4s with a 45-inch angle, and I placed those at the bottom of the box again to lift that top of the box, lift the box off the ground. When you do that, keep in mind that the original height of the cabinet was 36 inches tall, and that elevated the box off of the ground another couple of inches, which made it 38 inches. If you are using this box as a stand also, keep in mind that as a stand for your press, that elevates the press off the ground. And so keep in mind when you're looking at that, if you're planning on using this as a stand, that's going to affect the height at which you're pushing ink on screens. So you want to make sure that's comfortable for you. The 36 inches was the height of my workbench. And so when I added the feet and got it off the ground and put it on the floor, it should be okay. If not, I can remove those feet and it's a 10-minute job, no big deal. Over to the right here, I have my cross members for my my brace here up at the top. As you see here depicted in the photograph, in the plan here, here's my notch that allowed the cross members to lay flat across the top of the box at surface level. So that way when I put my top of the box on the top of the top panel on the box, it's nice and flush. Now, these cross members were installed because I'm using my box, my storage cabinet, as a stand for my press. So that I have something to drill my brackets into, which you'll see when I start building the press directly into the top of the box. Now, if you're not using this cabinet as a stand, you may not necessarily need the cross members, but if you are, it's recommended. All right, over to the left here, I have the construction of the frames for the base of the unit. And as you see here in the illustration and also in the videos, the actual frame members themselves are standing upright. That way, when I drilled my sides into the base, I had something to drill into from the inside, and you saw that in the video. All right, for my sides of the cabinet, this is the timbers laying flat, which you saw in the video, and those are for the sides of the cabinet, and that's how you build the frames. This here is the dimensions I end up finalizing with on the panels, and also the frames here. So those are the final dimensions that I came up with. So, you know, great idea, great guide. You know, use this to your liking. If there's something you want to change, if you're strictly using this as a drawing cabinet, sky's the limit. If you want to make it taller, you can. Because I'm using it as a stand, it's important that I had the height right. So at some other point down the road, if I ended up building another stand for a bigger press or a better press, I can always build another cabinet, stack it, and I'll have two doors, or I can build a whole other cabinet. You know, there's all sorts of different variations you can go with, but the reason why I made the cabinet as short as I did, again, is because it's going to be a stand also for my press. So pretty cool project, had fun doing it. Hope you all liked it and got something out of it. Please drop me a line at the bottom. If you have any questions, if you'd like a PDF of this plan, I'd be happy to send it to you. Use it to your advantage, change it, do whatever you want. This is strictly a guide how I built my box, and it's going to work well. Can't wait to get it to use it and get it to in use. Make sure you like and subscribe to my channel and my videos. My next video will be an unboxing of my screen exposure unit. Looking forward to that. So as soon as I get these videos edited and up, I'll get working on that. But again, if you have any questions, how I can make this project better, if you're going to build this, if you have questions along the way, drop me a line. I'll be happy to get back to you. Otherwise, that's all I've got. Welsh Creative out. Cap, take us away.